And actually, absolutely classic fight, instant classic right there. And, you know, the 2017 is turning out to be just an excellent year of boxing. Consistent, great fights on consecutive weekends, the way that we've been having lately. Just true excellence. But basically, what I'm speaking about is Errol Spence becoming the new IBF Welterweight Champion of the world, dethroning Kell Brook in just a fantastic fight. As I said, just, you know, great back and forth action between these two. You know, a lot of fairly close rounds. Incidentally, I had Spence well ahead just before the fight did get stopped, before Brook decided to take a knee and basically call it quits due to just the accumulation of damage. You know, the damage to his eye, the damage to his body, just the number of shots that he had taken. It was just a fantastic back and forth fight. It wasn't like Spence got out of there unscathed, though. Spence definitely took some licks of his own. Brook, I saw wobble Spence on a few different occasions. One in particular, I think it was in the 8th round, where he just caught Spence at the end of the round with just a mean right hand, like that was like right out of a clinch. It's like they were kind of clinching and they kind of shoved each other off, and then bam, Brook just kind of caught Spence almost like Spence was in a hopping motion, like with his feet kind of like semi off the ground. Just caught him perfectly, and Spence was reeling a bit after that shot. Managed to recover though. You know, it was just a great back and forth fight between these two. Good action between them. Really, what I think pretty much saved the day for Spence. Not only the damage that he was able to do to Kell Brook's eye, which I mean certainly foretold, you know, the conclusion of everything with the, you know, the right hooks and the left crosses that he was able to land on it, but the consistent body work that Spence did against Brook is pretty much the reason why I had him up going into the 11th round. I had him up clearly going into the 11th round. I had it 7-5, and then, you know, he had the 10th round. So by that point, Brook was going to be needing some knockdowns or a knockout on my scorecard at least. Judges had it pretty similar from what I saw. I don't have the scores in front of me, but they had it fairly similar margins from what I saw in the aftermath. But just a really good fight, and really a fight that I had been waiting for a very long time. You know, I've always been somebody that's been pretty high on Spence in terms of his quality as a fighter. I always felt like once he's able to get his due, and once he's able to get his opportunity at the top, at the elite, he was going to shine. And shine he did, as far as I'm concerned. You know, Kell Brook, for what it's worth, you know, a lot of people like to talk down about him, but to me, the way I saw it was after he defeated Sean Porter, Brook should have been the person that everybody was demanding that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather face off against, especially if they weren't going to be facing each other and they were going to dance around each other for all those years. Brook should have been the guy. Neither one of them, nor their camps or whoever winds up making the fight. So I'm just going to put it on Floyd and Manny in particular. Wanted to even acknowledge Brook's existence, almost in a similar fashion to the fact that like Broner, Garcia, Thurman didn't really want to acknowledge Errol Spence's existence. So it was on a bit of a higher level, but still, two guys that were kind of ignored, unfortunately, for their own general critical sensibilities. But Spence just did a fantastic job. You know, Brook did put up a hell of a fight, just a hell of a fight, especially coming off that loss, you know, that tough loss to Golovkin. You know, Golovkin broke the man's face, came in there, and I mean, Spence did a number on the other side of his face. It was able to basically force Brook into quitting. You know, Brook just didn't want any more of it. You know, the damage to the eye, the damage to the body, being winded. It was looking like it was going to be pretty much all downhill. From the 8th round on, it was pretty much the Errol Spence Express going forward, and he was just charging ahead, smoking ahead, and just doing a number on Brook at that point. It was definitely looking pretty ugly as far as Brook was concerned. But just a fantastic win, man. As for what's going to be next for these two, you know, I think that Brook is most likely going to wind up fighting Amir Khan. You know, the money fight, you know, the money is still there for that, and both of them are definitely on the downslope of their careers. Contrary to, I think, what a lot of people feel, I do think that Brook is actually fairly viable at 154 pounds. I do think that he could be a good light middleweight, especially with the fact that Alvarez is moving up. I don't think he's going to be moving back down to 154. I think that Jermell Charlo will probably be joining his brother Jamal fairly soon at middleweight. Very big light middleweight as well. There's a possibility Andrade may move up at some point in the near future as well. You know, and Arislandi Laws are always looking for the big money. So if anything, he might wind up moving up as well. Even though I don't necessarily think he has as much trouble making 154 as the other aforementioned names. But I mean, regardless of all that, even if with the guys that are still there at the moment, I would favor Brook to defeat Jarrett Hurd. I actually think that he would. He's just on a higher level than Hurd. I don't really rate Hurd that highly. He's a guy that kind of has to beat you by attrition. He like needs you to slow down in order for him to kind of get back into the fight, and you know, score the upset, score the come from behind knockout or what have you. But as for Spence, man, sky's the limit with him. You know, he called out Keith Thurman in the aftermath. He's tired of messing around. You know, Thurman didn't want to acknowledge the man's existence at all. Thurman does have his injury, though, and, you know, whenever he happens to recover from that injury, he's going to wind up having 2 mandatories. He's going to have Lamont Peterson and Sean Porter. So, in all likelihood, Spence is going to wind up having to fight somebody else, most likely. I know that Konstantin Ponomarev is rated fairly highly. I see in the IBF rankings, Jose Benavidez is ranked fairly highly. He still has to come back from that gunshot wound that he suffered last year. Saddam Ali's high up there. Rashidi Ellis would be fairly interesting. You know, I rate Ellis pretty damn highly after the last couple of fights he's had, especially that big upset knockout victory over Eddie Gomez. But, you know, Spence, he's definitely a problem. He is a bit leaky on the defensive side, though. He definitely is leaky on the defensive side. So for the people that like to compare it, that have been trying to say that, oh, he's the next Floyd Mayweather, you know, he's not a defensive specialist the way that Mayweather. He's way more of an offensive specialist, way more. You know, his defense is his offense. His defense is hitting you to the body, hitting you to the face, and breaking you down, just breaking you up and breaking you down. And that's the type of fighter he's going to be. And it's entirely possible that, you know, he may not necessarily have the longevity as some of these other, you know, all-time great names. You know, it's, you know, just his style of fighting is an action style, a high action, beat you up, beat you down, take a couple of shots to land my own type style. You know, that's just the type of fighter he is. But he is a physically very demanding fighter for the welterweight division. So at the moment, at least, until he accumulates some sort of damage, some miles on the odometer, I don't see anybody at welterweight beating him. I don't see anybody at the weight class beating him. You know, I think the body attack especially is too much for Thurman. I think that the head attack would probably be, you know, just the general attack really probably be a bit too much for Garcia. Although, you know, Garcia has enough power, I think, that he could, you know, catch Spence. You know, Spence is the most defensively gifted, as I already mentioned. Thurman, I think, would have to come out like a bat out of hell, the same way that he did against Garcia, and just have to catch Spence cold and pretty much just drag him into deep water early, like he's not expecting it. Otherwise, you know, I favor Spence in that fight. I think Spence versus Sean Porter would be a fantastic fight. You know, Spence is very much at home on the inside. Sean Porter, pretty much everything he knows is inside fighting, and I think that'd be a fantastic fight. You know, Porter is generally pretty willing to fight just about anybody, you know. So I could very well see Spence fighting Porter, if not Danny Garcia. I'm not sure exactly how expendable to see Garcia now that he has a loss on his ledger finally. But, I mean, if all else fails, I mean, Spence, honestly, I think the most compelling fight, if Thurman's not able to heal up and he has to wind up fighting his mandatories or whatever, Spence versus Sean Porter, I think, is a fantastic fight to be made. You know, I think it's a great fight, you know, and, you know, considering the fact that what happened last week with Terrence Crawford and Felix Diaz, and what happened this week with Errol Spence, I know that you know, a lot in the front of a lot of people's minds is going to be the idea like, oh, Spence versus Crawford. But the thing is, I don't see that fight happening at the very least for another couple of years. You know, if the Crawford Pacquiao bout ever happens and Crawford is able to defeat Pacquiao and get that torch passed to him, and Spence is able to mop up against Thurman, then maybe, you know, if it's for pretty much all the stakes at welterweight, I could see that fight happening. But until then, I think there's a little bit too much to lose on either side of the promotional spectrum, just because, you know, the way that Arum is and Heyman is and all that stuff. They don't do too much cross-promoting unless one guy has a significant advantage over the other in terms of the house fighter. You know, John Molina versus Terrence Crawford is a good example. Another good example, Chavez Jr. against Saul Canelo Alvarez, although that was Golden Boy and a Heyman fighter. But great fight between these two. You know, this is another one, another classic that is going to be kept by me for a good little while. Definitely gonna be watching this and rewatching this on several different occasions, and I pretty much spent it, man. I pretty much expended everything I could say about this fight. Really great fight, great win for Errol Spence. Can Brook recover? I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure. It's you know, he's taken a lot of damage these last couple of fights, And you know, it's tough to kind of come back from being at the very highest of the highs that he has been in the last couple of years, being that world champion, being arguably the man at welterweight, and now, you know, that's all gone. So it's gonna be a tough road going forward for Brook, but we'll see how he recovers. And Spence, you know, Spence, it's definitely looking like his time to shine. So we'll see exactly how long that lasts. But until the next one, I will catch you guys then. Peace.